Welcome to the Collecting the Past podcast. Funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities and in partnership with the Flannery O'Connor Institute for the Humanities, this project paired students from Georgia College with community members to collect oral histories from individuals who either lived in Milledgeville during the heart of O'Connor's writing career or whose lives were shaped by events that took place during this period. Our goals with the project are to expand the existing historical narrative of our town by documenting unwritten life stories and creating a public digital archive. As you'll hear, the students had fun creating their own podcasts in the style of their choice. Like our narrators, each episode has its own personality.
Interviewer is Juliann Mackiewicz, here with Mr. Benjamin Lewis. Time is 11:57 in the John Marlowe house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we will go ahead and get started. So first, I would like to know, what was your experience like growing up in Milledgeville?
I had a very good experience growing up here, although I grew up in the era of segregation. But I grew up in all of the communities that I've lived in were primarily, all of them were Black communities. There was a lot of support, there was a lot of love, a lot of camaraderie. So I really didn't have any problem in terms of growing up here, because everything that I needed in terms to sustain me and to assist me was provided.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what were some things that you'd like to do for fun as a child?
As a child?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I did not really have any identified hobbies as a child.
Mm-hmm.
I like to read. I like gardening, which I still do now.
That's awesome.
I enjoyed the company of others, of my peers. I was more or less an academic, so I studied a lot in order to move ahead. Singing was my forte. Speaking was my forte. So I did a lot of solo work. I sang with my church choirs. There was a group, a male chorus that was here, and I think I was about 12 or 11, and they were like 55 and up, and they wanted me to join that group, and I did, and so that was basically what I did.
Were there any common hangout spots in Milledgeville for you?
Was that a what?
Any common hangout spots for you in Milledgeville?
Interestingly, when I grew up, kids didn't have hangout spots.
Oh, okay.
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 You mainly stayed in your defined community unless you were going to visit someone, and that was with the approval of your parents and the approval of the parents that the house that you're going to.
Right.
So there were like clubs or recreation centers. They had a recreation center here. They had a pool here, but of course blacks were not allowed to attend. In fact, there was a pool on Wilkinson Street, right next to Trinity CME Church. And when it was integrated, Georgia College filled it in with cement to keep us from swimming there.
Wow, that's really sad. So you had mentioned that you had gone to church as a kid?
Say what?
You had gone to church as a child?
Yeah.
Was
Church was a requisite.
okay.
And I participated in all aspects the youth programs, as well as attending regular service, attending revivals. I learned to dance at the church. We did a lot of social things at the church, and so we had softball teams and various other sports teams. We would have sock hops in the first unit of the church, and so that was, the church really was our center and our socialization. So we were required to go to church.
Are there any specific traditions that you remember from your childhood? Either in church or just your family? Any kind of traditions? Uh-oh.
Like what? Give an example. What you mean when you say tradition?
It could be anything like super small, like maybe on the weekends you would go XYZ and like hang out somewhere with family, or like even Christmas time, or anything like big or small like that you would just do frequently with your family.
There were not any traditions, really.
Okay.
As I said before, we lived in a contained community.
Right.
I lived on this side of town. There was I didn't visit on that side of town, except with the approval of my parents. Usually an adult would accompany a child to, I did not, I played with the kids in the neighborhood, right? But I just could not go to another area of town because I know you and play with you. I had to have permission from my parents as well as permission from the parents of the house that I'm going to, you know. So it's not like it is now,
Right.
Where kids are, I say more independent, but that's not a good thing to me, because parents really have lost control, and kids are raising kids, you know, and so we were taught basic things that in the community, like respect. You respect your elders, you respect each other, and you say yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. So it was all right. So there were not any really traditions that we had, other than going to church, at school.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of school, you had mentioned that you were pretty big, like academic as a child.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what your experience like in elementary school or even high school was like for you?
My experience?
In school, yeah.
Well, I was in the top 3 always of my class.
Oh, wow.
And we would jockey for places. Sometimes I would be number 1, sometime number 2, but it was not ever under number 3, okay? So in my family, and most African American families that I grew up with, education and being successful in education was a requirement. And that was an ongoing communication between the faculty and your parents. Okay, so for example, if I, when I was in school, we did not have computers. So the teachers sat down. That was a card that they had, a grade card, and every 6 weeks they would sit down and they would put your grades down, and then you carry your card home and let your parents see it, and they had to sign off on it. Well, my mother was like, if I made a B in a subject, she would ask the question, did anyone else in the class make an A? And I would say, yes. She said, okay. Well, the next time you bring your card home, I want to see an A in this subject area. Okay. So it was, in terms of being an academic and being successful, it was reinforced not only by your parents, but by the larger community. Because my neighbors were asking me, well, how are you doing this good? What you made in English? What did you make in math? You know, and so I wanted them to be proud of me. So I studied, you know, and so when I learned to read well, my grandfather, I learned later on in life, was illiterate. And every day I had to stop by his house, and he would have me, at the time it was the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, I think, and he would have me to read the paper to him from cover to cover. Okay? And he had an interesting sense that, you know, sometimes I would skip. I got tired of reading, I'll skip. And he said, you skipped a part, didn't you? You know? And I learned just to go on, rather than to have to go back and reread. So that increased my love for reading. Okay. It increased my speaking ability, accumulations and all like that. You know, and if I had downtime, I had to have a book. You know, what are you doing? Nothing. Get your book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so education was really, and that was just not in my house. That was in the community.
Okay.
You know, you did not want your child to come up short.
Right.
And very few kids, unlike today, I think in my whole entire 12 years experience, there were only 2 kids that I can recall that were retained.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
And I mean, they weren't, that was in that whole 12 years. They may have been retained back in the 6th grade, or may have been retained in the 7th grade, but none of the kids in high school that I was with were retained.
Wow.
Ever.
Crazy.
That was a mortal sin, to be retained.
Wow. It's crazy to think about, like, the amount of kids who are getting into trouble today, you know? Like, I don't even really know if you can compare that to those, but that's really interesting.
Well, one of the things that was prevalent when I was in school, which is not prevalent now, it was that the teacher was always right. You could not come home and complain about a teacher.
Okay.
Okay. The parents didn't stand for that.
Gotcha.
You know. And my mother used to, I laugh about it a lot. She would put me on a trick bag, so to speak, you know, if I was complaining about someone, and she'd say, so you're saying she lied on you. So lie was a no-no for us. We could not ever call an adult a lie. Okay. I said, no ma'am. She said, well, what are you trying to say? I said, well, she said, so you saying she lied, right? No ma'am. I said, well, what do you call it? And you know, and so we knew that just not to bring any complaints home about the teacher.
Right.
You know, the teacher was always right. Now, granted, there were not many, but there were some times that maybe I felt that he or she was wrong in their approach to me or something like that. But I learned to just, it all bordered on, you had to respect adults.
Right.
Children did not have the right, so to speak, to call to sassy an adult, to talk back to an adult,
Right.
To curse an adult like kids do now. You know, that was a no-no.
Yeah.
And see, adulthood started. That was a young lady that would walk with me to Sunday school and stuff, and what was her name? I can't think of it. But anyway, she was about 17. She was 17, and she didn't mind if I called her by her first name. And one day I did in front of my mother. My mother looked at me and said, "What did you say?"
Oh.
"That's Miss." Okay. And she said, "It's all right if he called me by my first name." Mother said, "It's not all right with me. You know, he has to call you Miss, whatever your name is." Okay.
Right.
So, children knew when I was growing up what the rules of the road were.
Right.
You know, and for the most part, we complied. Now, in terms of, we had the, where it is now, the Youth Development Center, it was called a reformatory when I was growing up.
Oh.
And in my entire experience of childhood and adulthood, there are only two people, two African American males that went to the reformatory, compared to how many young folks you see in there as well as in prison. You know, just the other day, they gave a 17-year-old 88 years without chance of parole
Oh my gosh.
for murdering his cousin. And that was nothing. We never had any kid to even cut, but to murder, you know. So lifestyles have really changed, and I think for the detriment of all kids. Yeah.
It's really scary to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I said it's very scary to think about, like, 88 years. That's a lot. Oh.
Well, there are no parental guardrails.
Right.
I think parents now are really afraid of their kids.
Yeah.
Now, I cannot even, well, dope wasn't a thing when we were growing up, but you know, people did drink and stuff like that. But if I had been growing up and people were selling drugs, I could not even, in my wildest imagination, think that my mother would allow me to live in her house and sell drugs from her house, which goes on too much now in families, black and white. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna move on to the next question. So this is something that I'm just more curious about. I like asking people this question, but do you have a favorite memory of your childhood, like living here, or just any memory in general?
My favorite memory of my childhood when I wasn't living here,
Okay.
when I was living in Philly.
Okay.
Okay. I started my education process in Philadelphia. We moved back here when my grandmother became ill, so my mother came back to take care of her. But I remember It's interesting. But I remember sitting on the stoops. I remember the rag trucks. You know what a rag truck is?
Mm-mm.
That was a man with a wagon and a horse.
Oh, okay.
And they would go around and pick up if you had rags you wanted to get rid of.
Okay.
The rag truck. They had, in the summer, they would open the hydrants, the fire hydrants, and that's how we got out of cool off. I enjoyed school there. I was fascinated with, I was in a room that was, I don't know what you call it, where the wall would slide back, and that would be another room on that side.
Oh.
And so when I was in first grade, we exchanged classes between those two rooms. So when the class period was over, the wall would slide back. That was really fascinating to me.
That's so cool.
I never have seen a Ku Klux Klan until I moved to Georgia.
Oh.
And I lived on Columbia Street, which is 441 now.
Right.
It used to be I think they used to call it the Edenton Highway. That's there.
Okay.
And when I was, I had heard about Ku Klux Klan, but I had not ever seen the Ku Klux Klan until I was about, I guess, maybe 10 years old. And it was at night, and my grandmother when they would put the word out that the Ku Klux Klan gonna ride tonight. So in African American houses, they would put quilts and things at the window so that the light from the house wouldn't shine out. I was sitting out on the porch in the dark, and these cars was coming up Columbia Street, and they had torches, and they had the hoods and stuff on. And I did not have a real grasp on what the Ku Klux Klan was about. But it bothered me that my grandmother and my mother was so upset and, saying, be quiet. We don't want them to know that. That's why they put the quilts and stuff up at the window to keep the light from shining out. That was that experience. It's still, I still think about it sometimes.
Right. I can only imagine how just scary.
Well, I didn't understand the significance of it
Right.
until after I got much older.
Yeah.
So when I could not understand what was the emotional state. Why was my mother, why was my grandmother, why were other African Americans so upset?
Right.
Because I didn't understand who these folks were. But as I grew and learned, then it became apparent to me,
Right.
who these folks were. And interestingly, some of them were, and they knew it, and they identified themselves as such. But some of them were people like that owned businesses that black folks patronized, and they knew. And even the sheriff was a Klansman at the time, and the deputy sheriff too, I suppose. So it wasn't like they were some seedy people, but they were prominent people that were Klan.
Was that your only interaction? That was just the one time they passed through the town? Or did they come?
That was the only time that I had seen them.
Okay.
But there were other instances in Milledgeville where, like in the West End area, see, like we lived in a contained community.
Right.
So I don't know here. I could not be over in West End. Okay. that's a no-no.
Right.
Okay. But that was a black woman that owned a store in the West End area. And they sent her a message, for whatever reason, that if she did not close down by a certain time, that they were going to come by and shoot up a store. Okay. So the black men of the community put as I was told, I wasn't there. They got up on top of the store and covered up with tarps, and they had guns, stuff like that. And the Klan did come, but when they rose up on the roof of the store with all of that, they just passed by and didn't do what they said they were going to do. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that happened, you were told about it because it was in a different community. Mm-hmm. Now I know they used to, where Martin Luther King Street is, that was one of they used to ride down that street a lot. Okay. I've seen them one time, and it was called, it wasn't Martin Luther King then, I think it was Gwinnett Street. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, I know you said at the time, you didn't really understand what was going on because you were so young. I know you said you also mentioned that you still think about it today, but is there any other impacts that has on your life, especially growing up and slowly learning what they were and who they were?
No, it didn't really have any impact on my life because of segregation. Okay. We had our own schools, we had our own not as good as the white schools, but we had our own setup. So we just dealt, in that community. Right. So, even our school buses was segregated. Now, you see the number on the school bus now, but when I was in school, our school buses had a number and a C. So it would be 12C, which means 12 color. So the white kids rode separate buses and we rode separate buses. So in order for the white kids to differentiate, this is a white bus as opposed to a black bus, they put a C for color on our buses. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is interesting. So I kind of want to shift it into your more adult years. Mm-hmm. Actually, first, before I do that, in my class, I took a local history class this past spring, and we had the opportunity to tour the Sally Ellis Davis house.
To do what?
The Sally Ellis Davis house.
Oh,
do you know anything about that building?
I lived in that house.
You did?
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I'm going to tell you, first of all, I think Georgia College has done Sally Davis a disservice.
Really?
Yes. In fact, I sent her, she is buried in Bone Cemetery. Mm-hmm. She's interred in Bone Cemetery. It is the worst looking grave there. It's all, the headstone is broken, the grave, there's a big tree stump that has grown into the grave, and I am very much displeased that they are using her name, but they're not doing anything in terms of keeping her grave site. Right. Because visitors go, and they, but anyway, I lived in Sally Davis' house. Mm-hmm. That community was called church community. There were, Slater's Funeral Home.
Okay.
Let me give you a little history about me.
Okay.
That building you see across the street,
Okay.
that was the first Slater's Funeral Home. My great-great-great-grandfather, Alonzo Slater, built that building.
Wow.
And that was the first Slater's Funeral Home, okay?
Okay.
Alonzo Slater lived here where the new science building is, okay?
Okay.
He and his wife, all right? He died first, his wife died second. But anyway, she, at the time, black folks couldn't even walk through Georgia College campus unless they were working there. And you better not go through there at night.
Yeah.
She willed her property, where that new science building is, to the college. Okay?
Okay.
And we tried to get them to name that building for her. Now you go there and you look on Wilkinson Street, there's a little monument like this house sits on the ground with the picture of the house on it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Where the old science building is, that was on that corner, there were two black, as they call it in those days if they were unmarried, spinster sisters. And my grandmother used to tell me that the way you pay your taxes is by working the roads and stuff like that. And they were not able to do that. And so that property was taken from them. And all of that street, mostly, except for maybe two houses, were black. All of this street here was black. They used to call that Nigger Street. Okay. So when Richard Slater, Alonzo Slater's son, after Alonzo Slater died, inherited Slater's Funeral Home.
Okay.
He lived on South Clark Street, adjacent to Sally Davis.
Okay.
So in that area, they used to call it Churchville because most of the black churches were there. Right there, you know what Memory Hill Cemetery? You know the church that sits up on the corner called Trinity across from the fire department? Okay, that's where it was located.
Okay.
Okay. Flag Chapel was located there. That was another Methodist church. There was a sign as you go in Memory Hill where it used to be located. But anyway, that was a contained black community of black professionals. We had Julie. I took voice lessons from a lady that lived about 2 doors from Sally Davis' house, and she was a Juilliard trained musician. There were 2 Juilliard trained musicians across the street. So they used to call it Churchville. Now, Sally Davis had a daughter that taught in the Hancock County school system. And my mother knew her. And we were looking, my mother, not we looked for a place. And that house was vacant. And my mother called her, and that's how we got that. We were renting that house. And it was, as it looks today, they changed some of the structure of it. And now when you go in, have you been in there?
Inside the building?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you go in there, the original Sally Davis had the wide hall.
Right.
That was the room on the front, the room, 2 rooms on, okay? Then you had, in the middle of the hall, you had French doors. There are no French doors there now.
Yeah.
Okay. In the what the left hand side room, that's what we call the living room. And behind it was a bedroom, and that was a French door.
Okay.
That went from that, and then behind that bedroom was a bathroom.
Okay.
Okay. On this side, you had when you went in, you had a bedroom to the right, you had the dining room, you had the kitchen.
Okay.
Then you went out so you go down the hall, you went out the back. Okay, that was a nice wide back porch, and that was an adjacent room back there. And you went down the steps this way, like you're going out to the parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So I enjoyed living there because I found a lot of the books that Sally Davis had used in school. And see, the black school, you know what Flower Chapel is?
Yes.
The black school used to be the Eddie High. And she taught there at Eddie High. It used to be behind the church. Okay. And it was burned by whites. And I understand that I don't know. But anyway, and next to it was a self-contained upper class black community down there.
So did you have any interactions with Sally Davis herself, or was it just association with the house?
Say what?
Did you have any like one-on-one interaction with Sally Davis herself, or was it just like interactions with her house?
Oh well, she was dead.
Oh, you're right.
I had interactions with her daughter.
Yes,
Yeah.
that you did mention that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I misheard that part.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how old were you when you moved into the house? How old were you when you moved into the house?
I must have been in junior high.
Okay.
Because I was going to Body. And my sister was going to Carver.
Okay.
And see, I had to walk from there. You know where Body High is?
Yes.
Okay. I had to walk from there to Body High.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because and the white school bus would pass right by. You know, so we walked there every day and walked back there every afternoon.
Wow.
In fact, we would go up Wayne Street, go down to, I guess that's over by the bank, turn there. So we didn't think anything of it because that's what we had to do.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So now I'd like to kind of move on to kind of your older years. So for college, you went to Fort Valley, right? Fort Valley?
Fort Valley State University.
Right. And then after that, you went to Wayne State, which is in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was just something I was a little bit more curious about, but like what motivated you to choose those schools?
What?
What motivated you to like go out of state for, like your grad program or, leave Milledgeville?
Well, I had a undergrad professor, Dr. Elaine Baker.
Okay.
And she stressed that if you get a Southern education, you need to, and when you go to graduate school, you need to go to another area of the country because people are different. Okay. So I have a cliche that say, all folks don't eat grits.
Yeah.
Now, being here, when I left here, I found that when you said grits, people was talking about cream of wheat.
What?
And that was not even in my vernacular, cream of wheat.
Yeah.
And when I lived in Kentucky, I've lived all over the world.
Right.
When I lived in Kentucky, I couldn't find any grits. And then I had a friend, and he was in the military, and he was from Kentucky. And he said the first time he saw grits was when he was stationed in Columbus, Georgia. And he thought he was he ordered what he thought was cream of wheat. And he was wondering why people were looking at him putting butter and milk in the grits. And he said, he thought, you know, people are, and I'm glad I did go to graduate school in a different place, because let me tell you, the first day of graduate school, I'm Southern. The first day of graduate school professors, not like maybe professors at Georgia College where you have to call them doctor and all like that. You call them by the first name. And my first seminar, first class I had that day, I've forgotten her name, but anyway, she was lecturing and she said, "Excuse me, I got to go to the John." And you know, I'm like, did she say what I thought she said? You know. But the cultures are different. You not only do you get your professional training, but you learn a lot about different cultures.
Right.
You know, and which makes it better, I think, in order for you to maneuver in the world. You know, and for a woman to say she had to go to the John, that just kind of like shocked my sensibilities, because coming from little Milledgeville, you know, that was a private thing, about going to the bathroom.
That's really funny. So, did you come right back to Milledgeville after?
Oh no, I worked in Detroit for a good while, and moved up to being director. The Feds had a program called the Model Neighborhood. And I ended up being the director of Model Neighborhood. Had applied for a professorship at Wayne County. It was at that time, it's a 4-year school now, but at that time it was a junior college.
Right.
And had issues with illness in my family here. So I came here. And it appeared that every time I got ready to pack my bags and go back, my mother would get sick again. I later learned that was a ploy to keep me here. So one day she said, "I don't know why you keep paying all that rent in Michigan. You just need to go out to Central State and get you a job and put your roots down here." But anyway, I had been here about a year paying my lease in Michigan. So I finally decided, let me go out. I'm gonna go out here and try. I got 5 jobs that day.
Wow.
That I went out there. So I selected one of them, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. That's
Retired from Central State. And you know what? In hindsight, I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because my retirement is lucrative. I've met some good people here. I've worked in the school system here. I taught at GMC. So, you know, it's been a good ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just a little curious about your experiences with Central State Hospital, because I know there's a lot of, I guess, controversy is the word to use.
Well, when I started working at Central State, what propelled me to go to school, to college, was Central State Hospital.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I saw this white woman in this office telling me to go down the hall and clean feces off of a patient. Okay? So I said, now wait, there's a better way to do this. Okay. And so I said, I'm going. I had graduated from high school, so I said, I'm going to school. So, in that meantime, that was the Vietnam War, I think it was, and I got called for that, so, for military service.
Right.
So that interrupted my going to school, which things worked out because, God knows your needs even when you don't. And after I finished my service, I had another check. educational check that I could use for college. So college was kind of like free
Wow.
for the most part.
That's awesome.
And when I came back to Milledgeville and started working at Central State, it was interesting. The same woman that told me, was telling me to go down the hall and do things that I didn't want to do, like cleaning feces off someone, I was supervising her when I got back.
Wow.
Yeah, it had an interesting turn of events.
Yeah.
And I was the training director, and she was one of the instructors. Nice lady,
Yeah.
but it was just interesting that how tables can turn.
Right. Wow. Interesting. So you had overall, your experiences there. Well, how long did you work there?
33 years.
Oh, wow. That's a long time. So what, did you see any changes in the institution as you?
Yeah, because when I
progressed?
went there, it was segregated.
Oh,
The black patient was on the back,
okay.
and the white patient was on the front.
Okay.
Okay? And when I came back, it was integrated.
Oh,
I mean, you know.
yeah. Interesting.
See, have you toured Central State?
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay. Well, when you go in, you go to the Powell building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you would make a right, and then you go around, and all of this up here
Uh-huh.
was white. Okay, they didn't have the chapel and all like that then.
Okay.
But then as you go around, you had the women's prison. That was like two, at that time it was like two buildings. Then you had the Ingram building, that was black males. You had the Holly building, that was black female. You had the Washington building, that was black female. You had the Bostic building, that was black male, and you had some looked like Army barracks, that was black male, and that was the black portion of Central State. And see, the Jones building, that was the hospital, but in the Ingram building, Ingram 2. Was the hospital for, like if a black patient had to have surgery, they would send them to the Jones building, do the surgery, send them back to Ingram 2, and they would take care of the treatment and all like that. The Holly building was the same for black female. But now interestingly, at that time, the staff could go to be hospitalized there.
Oh,
Yeah. Many babies were born in the Holly building.
okay.
Okay. From I mean, the ladies that worked there, and got pregnant, had a baby, and it was free. Yeah.
Wow. That's really interesting. I had another question and then I lost it. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of backtrack a little bit. So you had mentioned that you were a real big bookworm. Did you have or ever read any of like Flannery O'Connor's works or
Did I read what?
Flannery O'Connor by any chance?
I read something. I really don't like Flannery O'Connor because she's a racist.
Yeah.
And I really don't. But my first real, I had where she was Miss Johnson at the time. But she later became a professor at Livingstone University. And the first real book was Anna Karenina, about that thick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And she assigned it to me to read. And the second book I read was that was a sign for what it was. I can't think of it now. But it was a book that talked about male sexuality, being gay and stuff like that. Oh God, it's right on the tip of my tongue. But one of the things I liked about Miss Johnson, in retrospect, at the time I did, any material she assigned to you, she had already read it. And you know that the first 10, the middle 10, and the last 10 didn't work for her. You know, I tried that with her one time. And she said, well, what happened on page 99 when this happened? And so what was the outcome? I'm like, no. She said, because you didn't read it. You haven't read the whole book, have you? All right, Lewis. All right. In 2 days, I want you to give me enough. And see, when we read, one of the things that we had to do was not only write a report, we had to give an oral report to the class.
Okay. So I bet your interactions with your grandpa and like reading him the newspaper really helped you with those kind of things, right?
Well, you know, reading was stressed by all our teachers.
Okay.
Accumulations, grammar,
Right.
all of that was stressed. You know, we had, and when I was in high school, we had they decided we had industrial arts, we had agriculture, home economics. Okay, usually the girls take home economics, boys take agriculture and industrial art. But in their wisdom, in the faculty and administrators' wisdom, they split that up. They started assigning boys to home economics, girls to either woodwork or agriculture. Because you don't know what you're going to, you need to know a little bit about everything.
Right. Yeah.
So in my junior, my senior year of high school, I took home economics because I had been in, I never did take agriculture, but I had been in industrial arts all that time.
Wow. That's really
So it was derivative education,
okay.
and it prepared us for life.
Right.
You know, you need to know how to do the basic things of life: wash, iron, cook. So they helped a lot of the boys out.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad they don't do that kind of stuff still in school.
Well, you know, I think they're missing the mark because a lot of kids grow up as adults. They can't do for themselves. They don't know how to. If they rip something, they don't know how to mend that. If they're hungry, they don't know how to cook. You know, they know how to go to Burger King and stuff like that. You know, I think it is absolutely crazy not to have like home economics. That used to be a major of home economics, and I saw somewhere not too long ago, not Georgia College, but it was a school that does still, and it's in this area, one of the colleges, but they still have home economics, but they have changed it in order to fit the current, you know. Now when I was in school, there were friends of mine that I have a cousin. She took home economics in school. She is living because she's an excellent seamstress. And she learned that in home economics.
Wow.
And she's making, in fact, my niece, she made my niece prom dress this year, you know.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So, you know, that was a benefit to some kids who didn't have the opportunity to go to college, for example, or trade school or whatever.
Right.
but they had a skill when they came out of high school. Okay? And that skill has carried them on and made a livelihood for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right. So I think I have one final question here.
Really?
I think so.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, if I missed anything and you have anything else that you'd like to talk about, you are more than welcome to. But my final question is, if you like, what is something that you want people to know about Milledgeville? Like, if you were talking to somebody and you're telling them about Milledgeville, what was something that you'd want them to know about the city?
Well, Milledgeville's a good place to live. It doesn't offer a lot. I think it could mainly what you have in Milledgeville, outside of the colleges like that, food joints.
Yeah.
you know, there's not a lot of recreation here. Like the downtown area. Yeah, we used to shop down here for clothes and shoes and stuff like that. What you got out here now? You got restaurants.
And bars.
And bars.
Yeah.
You know, what you have at 441? Fast food. And, you know, so I really think that Milledgeville has missed the mark having established businesses or entities that would draw people here.
Right.
You know, I was talking with several college students not too long ago, and they made mention to me saying, "Well, there's really nothing to do here. I ain't got nothing to bother, you know." Yeah, but what about the folks? What about folks that live here?
Right.
You have to go other places in order to. The mall is not about anything. You know, so I have to go to Macon or go to Atlanta if I really want to do some serious shopping.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a good place, it's a good quiet place to live. Particularly if you have a nervous breakdown, you can come here and, you know, there's nothing stimulating really going on here.
That's true.
And that's sad, but, you know, I don't know why so many folks come here to Georgia College, because there's nothing else in Milledgeville but Georgia College. Yeah. But I was going to tell you, did everybody tell you about Wayne Street, what used to be there?
I don't think so.
Okay, that was the train used to go down that street.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
The train, okay, if you go out Wayne Street, you will come to the railroad. That was a place over there, that was a wholesale place over there. So the train ran from there all the way out to Central State.
Really?
So when the train came through, everything stopped. Okay, like the traffic, because you can't run into the train.
Right, yeah.
And we have a picture over there in the market of the train that came through, and the tractor's still there. They just covered them up with the pavement, and that's what Milledgeville was noted for. That the train came through the middle of town.
Wow.
It was a choo-choo train with the smoke.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah.
So was that other? Because there's that. Is that the same track? The one that's right behind, like the depot that way. What is that street?
The track going east and west.
Okay.
They no longer use that.
Oh, okay.
But there is a train that go from, I think from Central State up all the way up to where Georgia Power used to be. I don't know where its destination is. Georgia Power is no longer there, but I hear it from time to time.
Right.
And it's over there by the hospital. Okay, that track over there by the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So was that there at the same time, or was it just this one that was going to? Was that track also there?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So okay.
We had track going east and west. Track going I guess you would call it, north to south on,
Okay.
on the outskirts of town. Then you had the train that came from Central State all the way up to, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And was that like something you traveled on? Like you traveled on the train to go places? Or was it just,
They did what?
was it something that like people traveled on? Or was it just to like transport resources?
The one that went east and west?
Any
Yeah, that was a depot. Where, if you go up Wayne Street, you would cross some train tracks. Okay. That was a depot to your right. It's no longer there.
Okay.
Okay. But people used to travel wherever. I know, like down, there's a place called Carmack, Georgia. I know it used to stop down there. And I think it went like down to Augusta or something like that. But yeah, it was a passenger train.
That's cool.
And they carried coal because that was a lot of people use coal in terms of fuel. And they had the caboose. It was a regular train.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. I wish they still had that. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Traveling. Let's see. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention about Milledgeville? Either past, present, maybe what the future holds?
Well, not really. I think you've asked some salient question. As I said before, I think Milledgeville could be better. I mean, it's a good place to live, but there's just nothing to do.
Yeah. Actually, well, I guess maybe not. Because I was going to say, like, has that changed much since when you were a kid living here? Like, having not many things to do, but you would mention...
Well, yeah, it has changed tremendously.
Right.
Yeah, because now, for example, this was the central business district. Okay, you had the Vogue, you had Trappler's, Mix, you had clothing stores, shoe stores. I mean, this was you know, and then you didn't have to go to unless you wanted to. You didn't have to go to Macon because you have major stores here, like Harrods. All of that street where you got over, what is that? Hancock Street?
Oh, yeah.
All of those were businesses. That weren't any restaurants up there.
Yeah.
Okay? You had two theaters. You had the campus and the co-ed. Of course, black folks had to go upstairs. In retrospect, they did not realize that we had the best seats in the house. Then there was, you're back? Hello. Hi. Oh, that's not you.
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I thought you were somebody else, another lady.
Okay, no worries.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, up there on that corner, that was the bus station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. On the other side of that street, up to the corner where the light is. And that it is a real estate office, I think now. But that was the bus station. We had Trailway and Greyhound coming
Wow.
through. Yeah. So I think we've lost a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had Piggly Wiggly used to be up there on that street. That was they moved that house out by the park now, but that was a very famous restaurant there. It was, I think, two Spencers, as they call it, sisters only, and they lived upstairs and the restaurant was down there. But my mother bought all my clothes in Milledgeville and shoes. But there's no place now I can buy shoes in.
Yeah, I like hearing about. I find it really interesting seeing what kind of stores move in and out of like that downtown area, like that strip where all the restaurants are, because like you can definitely tell how things are changing with generations. Like I know there used to, like when Milledgeville was founded, there used to be like a bookstore there. And then eventually, you know, like where the Verizon store was with like the glass windows?
Yeah.
Apparently that was like, I mean, you might know the answer, but like a seamstress shop, like a fabric store?
No, that was
No.
a loan company.
Oh, okay.
Initially. Now
Okay.
across the street, where was that? Was Amich's?
Yes.
That was the Union Department Store,
Okay.
and they had 3 levels.
Oh, wow.
You go on the first level, and then that was a level, a balcony level, and then that was the basement level. And they sold everything, you know,
Right.
men's clothes, women's clothes, girls' clothes, boys' clothes, shoes, material cloth, and they're sewing, thread, and all like that. And then next to there, I believe it was a jewelry store.
Oh, wow.
And see the campus theater was located. Is that the campus theater now? What's the name of the theater now? Co-ed or campus?
Campus?
In the campus.
I think so.
Okay. See, but the campus theater was like the first theater, and on top, about two stories down, was the co-ed theater on the same side. And
Interesting.
see, the courthouse was not there. It was on that corner was trapped with a shoe store. That's where a lot of ladies went to get their shoes and stuff like that. Well, they sold men's shoes, and Buster Brown, that was a brand of shoe that folks. Now across the street, you had the refined ladies. You had Harrods, Harrolds, and so all of the refined ladies, they bought their clothes. Oh, you had the Bessie Bland too, and so you had then you had Southern Dry Goods, and that was the owners were Jewish, and they would they would give you a coat to try on, and it would be too large, but they would hold it in the back, like, you know,
Yeah.
and they saw, and a lot of people, it was an economical place, and a lot of people used it.
Yeah.
So that was a Chandler Brothers 5 and 10 cent store on that side of the street. There weren't any restaurant there.
Yeah.
That one, but one, and it was the building that you were talking about. That it was a restaurant right next to it, and I think it was called Ray's Restaurant, but it was white. Black folks didn't go there. Black folks cooked there, but they didn't, you know. But there weren't any like these joints down. They have none of that down on Hancock Street.
Wow.
And see the building over here on the corner that used to be the kid building. You see, they didn't turn that into a vape shop.
Oh.
That was a drugstore.
Really?
Yeah, it was a drugstore and a, what you call it, where you eat. They had a counter in there, a food counter where you get hamburgers. And
Oh.
you know.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. I can't think of the word.
And see, and that street there, they were mainly black businesses. And all the way up now, my great grandfather was the first black doctor in Milledgeville.
What?
Yeah, Dr. Benjamin Simmons.
Wow.
Benjamin Judson Simmons. And he opened the first drugstore in Milledgeville. And that was Old Capitol Drugstore, which was right there. My brother owns it now.
Wow.
And that brick building right across the street here, that used to be there used to be another building that was the first black theater in Milledgeville. It was owned by my cousin. White folks burned it down. Okay. So I have a big my family, we have a big footprint in Milledgeville in terms of our ancestors.
Right.
And what they did and what they amassed in terms of wealth things like that. Because now, when I was talking about when I was living on South Clark Street, see, most of those folks, several of those folks on South Clark Street were related to me. They were Slaters. So I told you that Alonzo Slater, and see, over you know what Moore's Funeral Home? All of that was black owned.
Okay.
Behind Moore's, from Moore's on back.
Right.
And my Alonzo Slater built a lot of those houses that you see down there now.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
So, you know, segregation was a big thing. Now, the man that owned the brickyard, Bone, he deeded land for the black cemetery over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now Memory Hill Cemetery is integrated. However, all the black dead folks are in the back, and the white dead folks up front. What difference does it make? You know. So when you go on Memory, have you seen that cemetery?
I walked through it once
So
for
when
a
you
class.
go through, just through the gate all the way down, when you get to that white shed,
Okay.
that identifies everything beyond that white shed is black.
Interesting.
So I have the first black doctor in Milledgeville is buried in Memory Hill Cemetery, he and his wife. And he came through here on his way to medical school and met Petronia Slater and married Petronia Slater. So that's how the Simmons and the Slaters got together.
Okay. Wow. Was he going to school here in Milledgeville, like at Central State?
Who?
Your.
Great-great-grandpa?
Yes.
No, he was on Mahara.
Okay. Gotcha. That's so cool.
But he was on his way back to medical school, stopped at Flag Chapel Baptist Church one Sunday, met my great-great-great-grandmother, and they fell in love, married her, and he had Carolyn. He had 3 children. They had 3 or 4 children. He's buried there. His son is buried there. His daughter is buried there.
Yeah.
And I have an uncle that was a doctor, but he's buried somewhere else. Not in Georgia. He practiced in North Carolina and so.
I gotcha. It's crazy, like, I had no idea about, like, most of this information. So all of your insights have been so helpful in understanding so much.
Well, I'm glad that,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's very important that,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, the lay of the land, the history of an area. It helps you understand the area.
Absolutely.
You know, because sometimes, because now, like at Georgia College, my cousin that lives in the Atlanta area now, Joyce Hill, was the first African American student at Georgia College.
Really?
And she looked like you.
Wow.
And then the second black student there was my cousin. Now Joyce didn't graduate. It was called, I forgot, I don't know what it was called. It wasn't called Georgia College. It was something else.
Was it the women's college?
No, I don't think it was the women's college at that time.
Okay.
It has gone through two or three different names. But anyway, Joyce, where the library door is on Clark Street, that's where they took her picture at there. That should be that picture in the archive somewhere. Because they gave, a couple of years back, they gave a some type recognition program over at the Magnolia play. So, but she did not stay. She went to Talladega. So she really got her degree at Talladega.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow.
But because even though it was Georgia College was integrated, it was still segregated.
Right.
Your professors, many of the professors would have the black students to sit in the back of the class. The few black students that were there,
Right.
you know. It was like, you're here, but we don't have to really recognize you. You know, you're here by law, so we don't have to recognize you. You know, but Georgia College really has the women's college. Most of I would say 90% of the staff were black. Housekeepers, cooks, maintenance folks and stuff like that.
Right.
Now Georgia College, women's college, they have fed a lot of black families in Milledgeville. Because let me tell you, black folks are smart. They have little syrup buckets and stuff like that. And they be coming from work. And I used to, that was Aunt Clara, Miss Rogers, there were 3 or 4 ladies when I was living on this side. I'd be waiting for them in the afternoon when they could be coming down. They used to call that place where the fire department is, they used to call that Factory Hill. Okay, I'd be waiting for them to come down Factory Hill with them syrup buckets and stuff. Because, they have some good food in there too. You know? Yes. So Georgia College, women's college, whatever, they got a lot of black families in town.
Wow.
Unbeknownst to them.
Yeah. That's awesome. Did you see, like, I know you had gone out of Milledgeville to go do your, like, secondary, was it post-secondary school, college and stuff? Was it common for other people in the community to do that as well, to, like, branch out?
Not branching out. They had to branch out because they didn't have another school to go to.
Right, yeah.
The only schools that they could go to was Fort Valley State, Savannah State, Albany State. Those are 3 major schools.
Right.
So all of this other stuff about Georgia State and University of Georgia and stuff like that. See, because Georgia used to, I have a cousin now that lives in New York. Georgia used to pay you to go, a black person, if they wanted to go to the University of Georgia. Georgia would pay you to go to another school in another state.
What?
Yes.
What?
She got her education at Columbia University because Georgia would not permit black students to go to white schools. So they paid for her to go to Columbia University.
Wow.
See, a lot of times folks don't know the nitty-gritty details about Georgia.
Right. So is that what happened to you when you went to your grad school? Okay.
This was at the beginning when she's much older than I am, but this was at the beginning when blacks had applied to go to white colleges.
Okay.
And Georgia passed a law that they would pay for them to go out of state rather than to. Because most black people of my generation either graduated from one of Fort Valley, Savannah State, or Albany State.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to get a secondary degree, the only place that you could go would be there, Georgia, University of Georgia, Georgia Tech. They would pay you to go somewhere else, pay for your tuition and all.
Wow. That's so wild to like wrap my head around. It's like, what?
Well, check, just check it out. The Georgia history is nothing that is hidden. We know. But see, the thing of it is that and I guess I'm being biased.
Okay.
I don't think white folks talk about, they still try to hide stuff, but black folks share stuff. Okay. We know this, and so we talk about it. This is our history, we talk about it. We talk about Georgia wouldn't let us go to the University of Georgia, but paid us to go to Columbia University in New York.
Right.
Well, at the time, Columbia was a better rated school than Georgia was anyway. So you were doing us a favor.
You gave me so much information that was so very helpful, and I just wanted to thank you so much for agreeing to sit down and share your experiences with me. They have been so very insightful.
Okay.
Any last comments before we conclude?
No, let's put a period behind this, because if I make some more comments, you'll be here another hour.
All right, well, thank you again, and that concludes our interview.
We hope you enjoyed learning more about the people and historical events connected to Milledgeville and Flannery O'Connor in this episode. If you or someone you know has stories to share related to either of these topics, we'd love to hear them. In addition to documenting community memories, you'll also help us preserve your story for future generations. Visit our website, collectingthepastmilledgeville.wordpress.com, to learn more.